Racist cop frames black woman, then freezes when he learns she's a legal prodigy. The sun was already sinking behind the skyline of Savannah, Georgia, casting long shadows across the quiet street when Officer Travis Huxley hit the lights. Red and blue flashes lit up the dusk like an alarm bell for trouble. Monica Ellison gripped the steering wheel of her midnight blue Hyundai, her knuckles pale against her deep brown skin. She had just finished leading a free community seminar about knowing your legal rights, an ironic twist considering what was about to unfold. "License and registration," Travis said sharply, already shining his flashlight in her face before she could even lower the window. Monica kept calm, her voice smooth and even. "Of course, officer. May I ask what the stop is for?" "You rolled through a stop sign back there. Real subtle," he replied with a smirk, one hand resting ominously on the butt of his holstered gun. She knew that area like the back of her hand. There had been no stop sign. Still, Monica complied without protest, handing him her documents. As he walked back to his cruiser, something in her gut twisted. He wasn't just running her plates. A second patrol car arrived, then a third. That's when she realized this wasn't a traffic stop. It was a setup. 10 minutes later, Travis was yanking her door open. "Step out of the vehicle. May I ask?" "Step out now." Her heart pounded. She stepped out, hands visible, steady. He spun her around, cuffed her wrists roughly behind her back. "You're under arrest for possession with intent to distribute. We found narcotics in your trunk." "What?" Her voice cracked for the first time. "You're welcome to save the theatrics for the judge, ma'am, but we got your number. We've been watching you. I'm a legal advisor. I was just at the... Save it." As he shoved her into the back seat, Monica locked eyes with him. Calm, steady. "You have no idea what you've just done," she said softly. Travis smirked. "Yeah? We'll see about that, sweetheart." At the precinct, Monica sat alone in a cold holding cell, her blazer crumpled and stained from being pushed to the ground. Her phone had been confiscated, her rights read out as if they were just lines from a script. 2 female officers had already processed her, smirking when they whispered about another one off the streets. One even joked about how she didn't look like a dealer, because she wasn't, and the drugs found in her trunk had never been there before that stop. She'd been framed, but not randomly. This wasn't some lazy police mistake. No, this was targeted. Travis Huxley had been one of the officers Monica had publicly criticized at a local town hall weeks earlier when she presented evidence of unconstitutional stops in black neighborhoods. He hadn't forgotten her face. He was making sure she regretted ever stepping into that meeting. Back at the station, Travis swaggered through the locker room, relishing the applause from a couple of his buddies. "You finally got that know-it-all," one of them said. "Thought she was too smart for the street, huh?" Travis laughed, tossing his badge into his locker. "She ran her mouth too much. These people need to remember their place." He had no idea Monica wasn't just a community legal advocate. He didn't know about the sealed federal files, didn't know about her time at Yale Law, didn't know she had once been a rising star in the Department of Justice's Special Investigations Division, where she'd been assigned to uncover systemic corruption in local law enforcement agencies across the South. And she had chosen Savannah on purpose. In the early hours of the morning, Monica was allowed one call. She didn't call family. She didn't call any local lawyers. She called Evelyn Monroe. The voice on the other end was clipped and sharp. "You weren't supposed to surface." "I didn't. They dragged me out of the shadows. It's time." A long silence. "Do you want me to activate the file?" "Number." "Not yet. Let's see how far he wants to take this. I want everything done by the book. I want this exposed." "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Monica hung up and sat back on the hard bench. Her eyes were fierce. She wasn't the victim here. She was the trap. At sunrise, the local news ran a headline: Black woman arrested with over $10,000 in narcotics during routine traffic stop. The article quoted an anonymous police source calling her a repeat community agitator with suspicious ties. Monica read it on a printed copy someone slipped into her cell. She chuckled. Agitator, she muttered. That's what they call it now. She folded the paper and leaned back, looking up at the ceiling. Her plan had been to stay low, to keep her identity hidden until the case against the department was airtight. But now, they had forced her hand, and when it was time, she'd make sure the whole world saw exactly who Officer Travis Huxley had messed with. Because he hadn't just framed a black woman, he had framed a legal prodigy, and that mistake would cost him more than his badge. The door to the interrogation room groaned open, and Monica didn't even flinch. She sat composed, her wrists still red from the cuffs, her gaze unwavering as Officer Travis Huxley strolled in with that smug swagger like he already owned the outcome. He tossed a thin manila folder on the metal table and took a seat across from her. Care to explain how 10 grand worth of uncut powder got into your trunk, Miss Ellison? He said, enunciating each word like he was talking to a child. Monica didn't blink. Maybe you should explain how it got there, officer, because it wasn't when I left the community center 20 minutes earlier. Travis leaned forward, elbows on the table, a satisfied grin playing at the corner of his mouth. Save it. You legal types always think you can talk your way out. But this time, we've got fingerprints. We've got surveillance. She tilted her head, eyebrows lifting. You do? Security cam caught you near the warehouse last week. We got timestamps. A drug haven. You were there. He was bluffing, and they both knew it. Monica stared him down, her voice calm but pointed. That warehouse happens to be a non-profit food storage facility. I helped get them pro bono clearance 3 months ago when the city was trying to shut them down. Travis froze for a second. A tiny twitch in his left eye betrayed the hit. But he recovered quickly, flashing his usual arrogance. You'll have plenty of time to argue in court. She leaned in, her tone dropping. Oh, I'm counting on it. Just then, the door opened again. Another officer walked in, Sergeant Eli Morrow, Travis's superior, a tall, older white man with sun-leathered skin and a cautious edge to his step. He handed Travis a slip of paper and whispered something into his ear. Travis read it. His expression shifted. What is it? Monica asked, her voice steady. He didn't answer. He stood and walked out of the room without another word. Sergeant Morrow stayed behind, studying Monica like she was a puzzle he wasn't sure how to solve. You're not what you seem, he finally said. Monica offered a faint smile. Neither is your precinct. He said nothing more and walked out. An hour later, Monica was placed in holding again. No formal charges had been processed, no lawyer had been assigned. But that suited her fine, because her team had already been activated. From a nondescript apartment building just 2 blocks from the station, Evelyn Monroe, Monica's longtime friend and ex-colleague, was already on a secured laptop. Evelyn had once worked as a digital forensic analyst for the federal government, and though officially retired, she still had access to tools most local cops couldn't even spell. She zoomed in on traffic camera footage pulled just hours ago. There it was. At 7:42 p.m., Monica's car parked across from the community center. At 7:58 p.m., a squad car, license plate H9YX28, registered to Officer Travis Huxley, pulled up behind it. At 8:01 p.m., Travis stepped out, gloved, carrying something in a brown paper bag. At 8:03 p.m., he popped Monica's trunk and placed the bag inside. Evelyn smiled grimly and hit save. The next morning, Monica was transferred to county for arraignment. She stood before a judge in a packed courtroom, her hair still tied back in a sleek bun, her blazer pressed despite the night behind bars. The assistant district attorney read the charges. Travis stood at the side of the room, arms folded, wearing that same smug expression like he'd already won. But then, just before the judge could speak, a young man in a navy suit rose from the benches. "Your Honor," he said clearly, "I'm filing a motion to dismiss these charges based on video evidence of unlawful search and planting of evidence by arresting Officer Travis Huxley." A murmur rolled through the room. Travis's face drained of color. The judge narrowed her eyes. "And who are you?" The young man turned slightly, and for the first time Travis got a clear look at him. "Lucas Carter, Federal Observer and Legal Clerk for the Department of Justice. On behalf of Miss Ellison, we respectfully request this court view the evidence submitted 10 minutes ago via the court's secured server." The bailiff handed the judge a tablet. She watched the clip. Twice, then slowly raised her gaze toward Travis. "Officer Huxley, would you care to explain how you entered this woman's vehicle without a warrant, or probable cause, and placed an unsealed brown package inside?" Travis stammered, That video is doctored. This is insane. She's a criminal." The judge cut him off. "Enough." Her gavel hit the bench. "All charges against Miss Monica Ellison are dismissed with prejudice. Officer Huxley, please remain in the courtroom. You are hereby placed on administrative leave pending formal investigation." Gasps, whispers, a rush of reporters outside the chamber. Monica stood still, calm, but her fingers trembled slightly at her sides. Rage, vindication, and something colder. Determination. As she exited the courtroom, she brushed past Travis. He reached for her arm, desperate, wild-eyed. "You set me up. This was a trap." She turned, facing him fully now. "No, you set yourself up. You just picked the wrong woman to frame." And with that, she walked past him, out into the flashing lights of the media, already waiting. Because this wasn't just about her anymore. This was the beginning of something far bigger. Monica stood at the top of the courthouse steps, the early spring sun casting long shadows on the marble beneath her heels. Reporters were yelling her name now. Microphones lunged forward like spears, but she ignored them all. Behind her, Travis Huxley was being escorted through a side exit, face flushed, his badge no longer pinned to his chest. It had been stripped minutes ago, along with any illusion of control he once thought he had. Monica's phone buzzed in her blazer pocket, a text from Evelyn. He wasn't acting alone. Her jaw tightened. She had suspected as much. Later that evening, back at Evelyn's apartment, Monica watched grainy footage from several public surveillance cams synced side by side. One video from the precinct's parking lot, another from a gas station on 4th and Main, a third, crucially, from a civilian's dashcam, shared anonymously via a secure upload link. The common thread, Officer Martin Clay. He was a veteran, quiet, the kind of cop who stayed off the radar. But in each of the clips he was hovering near Travis. They whispered, passed small items, shared nods in passing like chess players silently confirming moves. Monica leaned back, her arms crossed. He was in the courtroom. He barely blinked during my dismissal. Evelyn nodded. We've got enough to build suspicion, but not enough to take him down. Then we get more. The next morning, Monica returned to work, not at some law office, but at the Jackson Center for Justice, a small community-based nonprofit where she offered free legal aid to underrepresented clients. The center was modest, run out of a converted brownstone with handwritten signs on the door and mismatched furniture inside. But for many in Eastwood, it was the only place they trusted. Her assistant, Kayla, met her with wide eyes. "You're a walking headline. CNN called twice. Someone from The View wants you on next week. Monica waved her off. They'll have to wait. I've got a client in holding who needs representation by noon. She picked up her files. But before she could walk back to her office, a man stepped through the front door. Dapper suit, salt and pepper hair, smooth demeanor. Miss Ellison, he said, offering a slight bow. Agent Reeve Thomas, Internal Affairs. Monica stared. You're not here by accident. No, and neither were those charges brought against you. He handed her a folder. Inside were internal memos, text exchanges, and logs. It painted a disturbing picture. Travis had been under quiet investigation for excessive force and falsified reports. But the department had buried the cases. Officer Martin Clay had been his supervising officer in every one. Monica's stomach turned. You want me to testify, she said. No, Reeve said. I want you to help us bring them down. Why me? Because you're the only one they underestimated. And because you're the only one who fought back and won. She didn't respond immediately. Her gaze drifted out the window across the street where a group of teens were skateboarding on the church steps. They deserved better. So did her neighbors. So did she. She looked back at him. Tell me what you need. That night, under a different name and with her curls tucked under a hoodie, Monica visited an underground club in West End. She wasn't there for fun. She was meeting someone. Inside, thick bass thumped against the walls. Bodies swayed in dim purple light. Monica slipped into a corner booth where a wiry man in his early 30s sipped a bourbon neat. Name's Jordan. Heard you're looking to talk about Martin Clay. Monica nodded. You served time. For a weapons charge that didn't exist, he said, voice sharp. He planted a pistol in my glove box during a stop. Said it matched the description of a gang member they were after. I was in school full-time, had never even been arrested. Do you have proof? Jordan pulled out an old burner phone, flipped through photos, then landed on one. Clay and Travis outside his car. No gloves, no warrant, just two men smiling after a job done. You give this to me, she said, and I'll make sure your story is heard, on record, in court, everywhere. Jordan hesitated. I want my name cleared. It will be. He nodded and slid the phone over. Monica left with a weight in her chest, but for the first time, she also carried ammunition. Back in her apartment, she sat down and stared at the wall, covered in names, lines, and photos. Travis, Clay, two prosecutors who looked the other way, a judge with questionable rulings. She whispered to herself, they built an entire web to protect each other, but webs tear. She took a breath, then picked up her phone. Evelyn, she said when the line picked up, it's time. Time for what? To file a civil suit and expose every single name on this list. There was a pause on the other end. You sure you're ready? Monica looked at the wall again, at the faces of those they'd hurt, framed, imprisoned. I've been ready my whole life. They just didn't know it yet. And with that, she started drafting a plan that would shake the entire department to its core. Monica had walked into plenty of courtrooms before, but never like this. Not with a folder of evidence thick enough to topple an entire precinct. Not with the eyes of Internal Affairs quietly watching from the benches. And not with the gut-wrenching knowledge that the justice system she once believed in had turned its back on her and countless others. She adjusted her navy blazer and stepped into the courtroom, her heels clicking on the polished floor like the ticking of a countdown clock. Her civil suit against Officer Travis Huxley and the Eastwood Police Department was officially in motion. But this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about Jordan. About the teenage boy who was falsely accused last summer. About every client she'd ever represented who never got a fair shot because the system was rigged against them. Judge Miriam Caldwell, known for her stern demeanor and zero tolerance for grandstanding, eyed Monica from the bench. "Miss Ellison," she said, "I see you're representing yourself." Monica met her gaze. "Yes, Your Honor, and I'd like to request a motion to compel discovery on documents relating to Officer Martin Clay's past arrest records and internal complaints." The defense attorney, a smug-looking man named Richard Bowden, immediately stood. "Objection, Your Honor. That officer isn't the defendant in this case." "But he's implicated," Monica countered. And the evidence we've submitted shows a pattern of collusion." Judge Caldwell didn't flinch. "I'll allow it, but you'll need to draw a clear connection, Miss Ellison." Monica nodded. "I will." Outside the courtroom, Travis stood with his lawyer, trying to maintain composure. But the moment Monica mentioned Clay by name, he tensed. His hands curled into fists, and for a split second panic flashed across his face. He hadn't expected her to come this far, to be this good, to still be standing. That night, Monica met with Evelyn and Reeve in a quiet diner just outside the city. They huddled in a booth at the back, voices low. "I have an angle," Reeve said, sliding a thumb drive across the table. "Audio logs from a ride-along rookie cop. He accidentally recorded a conversation between Clay and Travis after your arrest. You were right. It was premeditated." Monica plugged the drive into her laptop and listened. The voices were fuzzy but clear enough. "She thinks she's somebody," Clay had said, "but we put her in her place." "You really shredded her file?" Travis had asked. "Every copy. That woman won't see a courtroom again unless she's in handcuffs." Monica's hand clenched the edge of the table. "That's not just corruption. That's criminal conspiracy." Reeve nodded. "We're building a case, but we'll need more." "I'll get it." Back at her office, Monica began reviewing case files linked to both officers. One caught her attention. An eviction case where the landlord had accused a single black mother of squatting. No prior record, no official complaint. And yet, Travis had recommended charges. The mother, Patrice Adams, had reached out to the center months ago, but her case had been dismissed quietly. Monica found her number and called. "Miss Adams?" Monica asked. "This is Monica Ellison. I believe you may have been targeted by Officers Huxley and Clay. I'm reopening your case." Patrice hesitated. "You really think it matters now?" Monica leaned forward at her desk, her voice soft. "It matters to me. And it will matter in court." The next day, Patrice sat in front of the courtroom, hands trembling, eyes darting. Monica stood beside her like a wall. "Do you swear to tell the truth?" the clerk asked. Patrice swallowed. "I do." "What happened the night you were arrested?" Monica asked gently. "They came into my home without a warrant," she said. "Said I didn't belong there. But I had a lease. They tore it up. One of them laughed. The other said I fit a profile. I lost my job after that. My son hasn't slept right since." The courtroom went quiet. Even Judge Caldwell's expression shifted slightly. When Monica turned back toward the gallery, she saw it. Travis wasn't just sweating, he was unraveling. And then came the twist. After court recessed, Monica was handed an envelope by a bailiff, no return address. Inside were 2 photos and a note. The photos were security footage stills. They showed Travis and Martin Clay meeting in a parking garage with someone Monica didn't recognize until she turned the image sideways. It was Assistant District Attorney Karen Mills. The note read, "She's the one who buried your dismissal motion. Look deeper." Monica stared at the photos, heart pounding. It wasn't just corrupt cops. It was the DA's office. She called Evelyn immediately. "We're not just fighting a couple of dirty cops. The rot goes all the way up." Evelyn didn't sound surprised. "Then we aim higher." That night, Monica didn't sleep. She paced her apartment, stared at her evidence board, rearranged the strings and pushpins connecting names, places, dates. This wasn't just a battle anymore. It was a war, and she was done playing defense. The fluorescent lights in the courtroom buzzed faintly, but Monica couldn't hear anything except the dull thump of her own pulse. She stood tall at the plaintiff's table, eyes fixed on the judge, who had just agreed to admit the surveillance photos into evidence. The courtroom stirred at the announcement, whispers fluttering like moths through the gallery. Monica took a breath and turned toward the jury. "These images," she began, her voice steady. "Place Officer Travis Huxley and Officer Martin Clay in a private meeting with Assistant District Attorney Karen Mills, just days before my charges were mysteriously elevated from obstruction to felony assault. There was no investigation, no hearing, no oversight, just a backroom deal that nearly ruined my career and life." Across the courtroom, ADA Mills stared daggers at her, lips pursed but trembling. Judge Caldwell leaned forward. "Miss Ellison, are you suggesting collusion between the police department and the district attorney's office?" "Yes, Your Honor, and I intend to prove it." Gasps rippled through the room. Outside court, chaos erupted. Reporters swarmed the steps, shoving microphones into faces, demanding answers. Monica ignored them and walked directly to her team, where Evelyn was already dialing contacts from the state bar. Reeve had 2 laptops open, pulling every public record tied to ADA Mills over the past 5 years. "We found something," he said. "Looks like a pattern. She's tossed out motions from every civil rights attorney who's ever pushed back against Eastwood PD." "And look at this," Evelyn added, holding up her phone. "A whistleblower inside the DA's office just sent us internal emails. Mills flagged your name the day after you won that police brutality case against Clay's cousin. They've been watching you, Monica. Planning." Monica's throat tightened. She thought she was targeted because of a traffic stop, because she defended herself with the law. But this wasn't random. They'd seen her as a threat long before the arrest. Back in court, Monica prepared to call her next witness, an IT contractor named Kyle Nguyen, who had recently left the DA's office under suspicious circumstances. "Mr. Nguyen," she asked calmly, "can you tell the court why you left your position?" Kyle swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing. "Because I was asked to delete case file metadata from the Mills archive. I refused." "And were any of those files connected to me?" "Yes. Your original dismissal motion. I flagged it. It should have closed your case, but instead it was rerouted and gone." Judge Caldwell's brow furrowed. "Are you implying evidence tampering in the DA's office?" "Yes, Your Honor," Kyle said, voice barely above a whisper. The judge didn't respond. She just nodded once and leaned back in her chair, as if calculating something far more complicated than contempt. After the session ended, Monica was approached by Travis Huxley himself. Not in uniform, no smug smile, just a worn jacket, tired eyes, and hands shoved into his pockets like a boy caught stealing. "I didn't mean for it to go that far," he said quietly. Monica didn't flinch. "But you let it. I thought you were just another activist lawyer, loud but harmless. Clay said if we scared you off early, it would send a message. I didn't know you were—" He trailed off. "Didn't know I was what?" she asked. "A damn genius," he muttered. "You had the whole courtroom spinning." Monica stared at him, her jaw tight. "You tried to end my career. You tried to silence me. I know. That's why I'm here." He reached into his coat and pulled out a thumb drive. "This is from Clay's locker. Everything he kept off the record. He doesn't know I took it, and if he finds out, "He won't," she interrupted, "because after this, I'm going after him next." That night, Monica sat alone in her office with the drive plugged into her laptop. Video files, recorded phone calls, digital scans of doctored evidence. All of it was there. Enough to reopen a dozen cases. Enough to bury Clay, Mills, and maybe even others. But one file stopped her cold. It was a video, dated 2 weeks before her arrest. In the grainy footage, Clay, Mills, and an unknown third man sat at a table. The conversation was barely audible until the third man leaned in. "She's the real problem," he said. "She's not just smart, she's dangerous. A prodigy. You either discredit her now or she'll dismantle everything you've built." Monica recognized his face. Judge Ronald Greer, the former senior judge in Eastwood's Criminal Court Division, retired the year before after a quiet scandal nobody could pin down. Now it made sense. Her entire career trajectory, blocked cases, delayed motions, phantom complaints, had been shadowed by people terrified of her intellect. She wasn't paranoid, she had been hunted, and now she had proof. Monica sat back in her chair, heart pounding with clarity and rage. This was no longer about her record being cleared. This was about tearing down a structure that fed off intimidation and silence. She picked up her phone and called the U.S. Attorney's Office. "I need a meeting. I have evidence of systemic corruption involving law enforcement and the District Attorney's Office in Eastwood." The voice on the other end paused, then said, "How soon can you get here?" Monica looked down at the file still open, her hands trembling slightly, but her voice rock steady. "Tonight." Monica didn't sleep that night. Her mind raced with the possibilities, the dangers, the moves she would have to make in perfect sequence. The evidence on the drive wasn't just damning, it was explosive. If it leaked too soon, those responsible could vanish. If she waited too long, they could destroy the rest. By 6 a.m., she was sitting across from Assistant U.S. Attorney Layla Torres in a private federal office in downtown Atlanta. Layla, sharp-eyed and cautious, scanned the files with a practiced calm, but even she raised an eyebrow when she hit the video clip of Judge Greer. "You're telling me a retired judge, 2 cops, and the assistant DA all coordinated to frame you and others because you were too effective in court?" "No," Monica said. "I'm saying that's just the tip of it." She slid over a list of cases, suppressed evidence, vanished motions, mysterious plea deals pushed on poor, mostly black defendants. Her voice never cracked, even as her fingers trembled. This wasn't just about justice now. It was about systemic rot. Torres leaned back. "We've suspected this district for a while, but no one ever got close enough. You didn't just get close, you walked through the front door with a spotlight." "I didn't walk through," Monica said. "They dragged me in, and now they're going to regret it." Across town at the Eastwood precinct, Officer Travis Huxley was spiraling. He hadn't slept either. The weight of what he'd done or let happen pressed on him like a boy of ice. He paced the locker room, sweating through his undershirt. Martin Clay walked in, whistling. "You look like hell, Travis. That conscience of yours finally waking up?" "I can't do this anymore," Travis muttered. "She's not some activist lawyer. She's right. We set her up. We've done worse." Clay's smile vanished. "Don't get soft. You think any of those people would give us a break if the tables were turned?" "They're not supposed to," Travis snapped. "We're supposed to uphold the law, not twist it." Clay stepped closer, low and threatening. "You even think about talking, and you'll end up just like Holloway." Travis froze. Officer Holloway had died last year in a car accident after threatening to report misuse of force. Everyone at the precinct had whispered about it. Nobody dared ask questions. Later that night, Travis sat in his car outside his sister's house, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles went white. He picked up his phone, then set it down. He stared at the screen again, then finally hit record. My name is Travis Huxley. I'm a patrol officer in Eastwood. If you're watching this, it means something's happened to me. I have evidence of corruption involving Officer Martin Clay, ADA Karen Mills, and others. He sent the video to 3 different sources: Monica, an independent journalist, and the Department of Justice. Back at Monica's office, Evelyn burst in with wide eyes. He cracked. Who? Monica asked. Travis. He just sent this. They watched the video, and Monica felt the hairs on her arm rise. He's trying to protect himself, Reeves said. No, Monica replied. He's finally telling the truth. Monica knew what had to happen next. She returned to court 2 days later with Torres by her side and a federal subpoena in hand. Judge Caldwell read the notice, jaw tightening. This court will now be in recess pending review of federal jurisdiction, the judge announced. All parties are advised to remain available for questioning. Karen Mills stood, furious. You can't just walk in here and override the entire system. Torres fixed her with a look that could cut steel. Watch me. As the gallery buzzed with shock, Monica stepped outside. News crews had already arrived. The narrative was no longer hers alone. It had become a movement. Then her phone rang. It was Travis. I'm sorry, he said. Clay's on edge. He knows something's up. Be careful, Monica. I think they're planning something. What do you mean? I think you're not just in danger of losing your case. You're in danger. Period. Before she could respond, the line went dead. Monica stood in the middle of the courthouse steps, surrounded by cameras and flashing lights. But all she could feel was the chill of something shifting. This wasn't just about exposing a corrupt system anymore. It was about survival. And for the first time in her life, the prodigy with all the answers realized she'd have to play the next hand in the dark. The courtroom was packed. Word had spread fast, and now every seat was filled. Journalists, students, retired attorneys, even families of past defendants who had been steamrolled by the Eastwood system. There was something electric in the air, something shifting. The silence was thick as Monica Rhodes stood in front of the judge, wearing a navy blazer and a calm expression that masked the storm beneath. Judge Caldwell leaned forward. Ms. Rhodes, you're requesting this case be dismissed under the grounds of systemic prosecutorial misconduct. That's a bold claim. Monica didn't blink. It's not a claim. It's a documented pattern supported by internal evidence, eyewitness testimony, and now a confession. She clicked the remote. A massive screen lit up behind her, and Travis Huxley's video began to play. The room collectively leaned in as his face filled the screen. My name is Officer Travis Huxley. I've been with the Eastwood Police Department for 9 years. I'm here because I can't live with what we've done anymore. The confession unraveled everything. The fixed reports, the planted evidence, the silenced whistleblowers. The case is built not on truth, but quotas and politics. Gasps echoed. A woman in the front row covered her mouth. One man began to cry softly. Judge Caldwell looked stunned. Even Karen Mills, standing at the prosecution's table, seemed to pale beneath her makeup. But it wasn't over. Monica stepped forward again. And here's what you don't see, she said. Here are the lives impacted. This is Jerome Davis, sentenced to 10 years for a burglary he didn't commit, because Clay swapped surveillance footage. This is Aisha Green, a single mom, coerced into a plea deal by ADA Mills with fabricated evidence. This is my story, but it's their lives. Then she turned toward the bench. And now I'm asking this court, on the record to issue an immediate stay of all pending cases involving the Eastwood Precinct and ADA Karen Mills until an independent review is completed. The judge looked down at his bench, silent. The courtroom held its breath. After a long pause, Judge Caldwell spoke slowly. Given the overwhelming nature of this new evidence, the court has no choice but to grant a temporary injunction and refer the matter to the State Attorney General's office for review. Monica exhaled just barely. Around her, a rustle of shock and hope rippled across the room. But then a twist. Karen Mills suddenly stood and addressed the court. "Your Honor, I would like to submit something into the record as well." Monica narrowed her eyes. She wasn't expecting this. Karen pulled out a USB drive. "This contains private communications between Ms. Rhodes and Officer Huxley before his confession. Suggestive texts, private meetings, could indicate coercion or even collusion." The crowd murmured. Monica's chest tightened. Karen had gone nuclear. Judge Caldwell looked unimpressed. "We'll review the contents, but unless there's hard evidence of misconduct, we proceed with the hearing." Monica whispered to her co-counsel, "That's a fake narrative. They're trying to flip it, paint me as a manipulator instead of a whistleblower." Evelyn nodded. "Let them try. You've got the truth." But Monica knew truth alone wasn't always enough. It had to land. It had to punch harder than lies. Outside the courthouse later that evening, Monica was swarmed by reporters. She gave no statement, just walked straight to her car. Her phone buzzed. A blocked number. She hesitated, then answered. "Hello?" A gravelly voice responded. "You think this is over, Rhodes? The system was built long before you, and people like you don't survive it." Then the line cut. Monica sat frozen for a moment. Not in fear, in clarity. They were scared. That was why they were pushing back harder than ever. Back at her apartment, she poured herself a glass of water and stared out over the Atlanta skyline. This wasn't just about her name anymore. It wasn't just about clearing her record or beating a single case. It was about war. A war for truth, fought in courtrooms, offices, precincts, and prisons. A war against the kind of arrogance that thought it could frame a black woman genius and silence her for good. Monica grabbed her laptop. If they wanted to drag her through the fire, fine. She was already building a fire of her own. And in the morning it would be national. The courtroom was eerily silent. It had only been 5 minutes since Judge Caldwell called for a recess, yet the tension hadn't lifted. Monica sat at the defense table, her posture tall, composed, but her heart was pounding. Outside, protesters were gathering. News vans clogged the streets, and somewhere inside the courthouse, the Attorney General herself was on her way. Karen Mills paced across the room like a wolf in a cage. Her move with the USB had failed. Tech analysts confirmed the messages were forged. Worse, the attempt to frame Monica had backfired, and now the Ethics Committee had opened an emergency inquiry into her conduct. And then the door opened. In walked Attorney General Diana Lowell, regal, calm, sharp as a scalpel. She didn't sit. She went straight to the bench and whispered something to Judge Caldwell. He nodded gravely. Then the judge turned to the room. "This court recognizes an executive intervention. The state has completed its preliminary review. Effective immediately, Assistant District Attorney Karen Mills is suspended, pending full investigation into prosecutorial misconduct, including falsification of evidence and abuse of authority." Karen's knees buckled. "What? You can't. This is a setup. She's manipulating everyone." But 2 court officers were already approaching her. Not handcuffs yet, but close enough to humiliate. Monica didn't smile. She just stared straight ahead. This wasn't about revenge. This was justice correcting itself. Finally. Judge Caldwell continued. Furthermore, the court vacates all charges against Monica Rhodes and orders her full exoneration. Ms. Rhodes, you are free to go. The courtroom erupted. Reporters shouted. People clapped. One man whistled loud enough to shake the glass in the back doors. Monica stood up slowly. Her mom was there in the front row, tears on her cheeks. Her younger sister, Ava, squeezed her hand. And in the back, surprisingly, stood Officer Travis Huxley. He gave her a slow nod. She walked out of that courtroom not as a defendant, not even just a lawyer, but as a symbol. A black woman who had been targeted, framed, and humiliated, who stood her ground and rewrote the story they tried to force on her. But it wasn't over. Outside, as cameras flashed and microphones were shoved in her face, she spoke calmly into the noise. Let this be a message. We are not afraid of power used wrongly. We are not afraid of systems built to silence us. We are the system now. We are the future of justice, and we will keep going until no one else has to survive what I did. She walked past them all and into the arms of her mother. That night, Monica sat alone on her apartment balcony, city lights flickering in the distance. Her phone buzzed, a message from the governor's office. We'd like to speak with you about leading a new statewide task force on prosecutorial reform. She smiled, then slowly typed her reply. Let's talk Monday, but tonight I'm going home to rest. It's been a long fight. Then she picked up her laptop, opened a blank document, and began to type. To every black girl told she talks too much, dreams too big, or challenges too often, keep going. The world needs your voice more than it knows. If this story moved you, share it. Let the world hear voices like Monica's. Subscribe to our channel for more powerful, real-inspired stories about strength, truth, and justice.